Okay, we're going to get this baby started. Welcome. Hello, all.
Hello.
The awakening has started, yeah?
Amen.
It's been going on.
Amen.
And we're getting awoke. Praise the Lord. Woo! Cool. Well, I met Brother Abel a couple months ago. Wonderful man of God. Beautiful family. Got a great wife and great family. I just really appreciate them and what they're doing. So my name's Gabriel. My wife Carrie over there is busting out the Bierocks. We got the hold of this place about 1.5 years ago in the middle of COVID. Oof, it's just chicken with your head cut off, I'll tell you. It's all faith, right? So, Father, we're going to be a people of faith. That's what we're going to be. We're not going to get bittered in our spirits when we see the truth. We're going to receive and we're going to go with love. We're going to push forth with love, Lord. We're going to forgive our enemies. We're going to bless those that curse us that we may be a pure and spotless bride. I bless tonight. I bless the people here with the spirit of truth and revelation in the knowledge of you, Lord. May it come through the spirit of love. May that be our foundation, Lord. I bless Abel and his family and the words that we've spoken tonight and every speaker. We just speak peace into this house. Amen.
I just want to welcome everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Dale? Attention, Dale. Can you hear me?
Amen.
We're going to give you a lot of information really quick. It's going to be, at times, a little overwhelming. The reason I'm not there is because I don't want the hum to come out. How many heard through this through another person? How many heard it through online? Through online. Okay. And how many are believers?
Amen.
What?
99.9.
You what? Lakers.
100%.
So, I'm going to start with this real quick, okay, guys? This presentation is called The Awakening and the Strategy. Because a lot of people think that when we start talking, it sounds like political. And the first thing you need to realize is this is not political. Okay? We are literally fighting demons. Like in the video games, with the sword and all that stuff. Literally, that's what we're doing. But because they manifest in 3 areas. They manifest in the natural, they manifest in the spirit, and they manifest in the emotion, and they manifest in the environment. Once you understand that, you're going to understand sometimes you go to work or you meet certain people, and they come in and they talk for 5 minutes, and you feel like they brought the devil. They literally feel like that, you cannot wait for them to leave. They're just negative. And then some other times, hopefully, you'll meet a believer. They come over, they talk to you, and you feel refreshed, you feel happy, and you feel like you want to talk about Jesus. And because each one of those persons is going to manifest what's inside of that person. Okay? So a believer should come to you, and you should feel refreshed, or feel something, or feel like they're family, or like you know them for a long time, right? Hopefully. And non-believers, they're connected to other things, usually are connected to negative stuff, and what it does, it gives them other kind of powers. They rain on you, they pollinate you with other things. Their conversations are different. So there's a scripture that says, 2 Chronicles 7:14. Everybody knows it. If my people, right? You guys know it? You look at me like you don't. Yes?
Yes.
If my people will repent, walk away from their sins. Okay, remember that's the preface? And what happens is, why do you need to repent? For something that your daddy or your grandpappy did. Why? God is tri-generational, which means that he at least has 3 generations. He doesn't see you like you. He sees you like your grandfather, your father, and you. So curses even go to the 3rd and 4th generation. When I came, I'm originally from California. Where's my time? Who's got my time? Just let me know how far I'm going. Because we got a lot of things that I need to pass it on. So there's things that happened here in this city a long time ago. And I want to be very careful when I tell you this part. Because Indians, there was 5 major Indians, and the information I was confirmed with Dwight a couple of days ago. There was 5 different settlements of Indians. At least 3 of them were even carnivorous. They were doing evil stuff. But they did something to the land. And they know that what they were doing because they did it and cross. You guys ever heard movies that if you want to get the devil, you go to a cross street, or you do it at 12 o'clock, or you do it at 12 o'clock at night, midnight. Those are spiritual times because
Crossroads.
crossroads, right?
Crossroads.
Yes. Oh, by the way, I know you're gonna have questions. No questions because it's gonna slow down these guys. I'm just gonna introduce you. So they did it between the rivers, and they did a lot of baby killing. I'm not saying that all the Indians are bad. I'm saying the guys that did it. It doesn't matter who did. If from all of us, one guy does something, that generations gets cursed. It's in the Bible. Okay, I'm almost there. And so, at the end of the day, we have people that did things over here. And they were doing it because they want to get other Indians out of the area. There was a lot of buffalo, big game, and they were trying to get them out of the area. And they were trying to send it to Nebraska, and the animals kept coming back. At the end of the day, what happened was that the Spanish came on, the French and the Spanish, they were trying to get them out, and they continued doing those things, which is nowadays, we have, our city is called the capital of abortion. I mean, you know, and we're not going to talk about abortion. How many people know that? Once you understand that this didn't started 20 years ago, started 170 years ago. And so when you read the scripture, we need to understand that we're fighting something bigger than just laws, or some law that somebody did, or some simple thing that is going on in the culture. When people do something, it has to manifest. If you got the Spirit of God, it has to manifest. If you're gonna dress different, you're gonna carry different things that make you look Christian. And if you're not, and you're with something else, it's gonna manifest. One of the first things that happens, especially with young kids, is they become antisocial. You got a kid, he has to be antisocial. Listen to the music and look at the video games and the things that they're doing, and you're gonna know why they're antisocial. And that's only one thing. They begin to act really erratic. It doesn't make sense. They don't want to do anything. That's because they're being affected. But the reason why it's called the gospel means good news. And all it means is whatever situation you got, the gospel, the good news of Jesus is going to help you. But we do it in 3 areas. On one wing of the bird, we talk about the spiritual things, and we have a ministry and a chat called Josiah Project. I'll explain it towards the end a little bit more. Then we have the assembly. We are the Kansas Republic Assembly on land and soil jurisdiction. You're going to understand a little bit why is that. And you're going to understand all this stuff that we're doing. And then in the emotion, we train and teach people so that you get confident and understand what's going on and you can fight it. Now, along with those things, you're going to find out that all these spiritual things is going to give you good things. They're going to give you rights that you don't have, that you think you have, but you don't have. Are you ready? I'm going to give it to you. So I'm going to present Tammy Willard, and she's going to give you this presentation. Do I need to turn this on?
No, I don't.
You need it? And she's going to explain this. The teaching is going to be in 2 forms. It's going to be the awakening and the strategy. This is part of the awakening, and she's going to share. You see that guy over there with the. Can I give her a hand?
Hello, everybody. Hello. Yes, I'm Tammy Lynn, and pardon me for sitting doing this presentation. I got in a fight with a lawnmower this week, and I ended up with 10 stitches in my foot. So let's just say lack of knowledge and stupid decisions, they have a way of causing you injury. Anyway, God's Word has a lot to say about lack of knowledge. So I'm going to give you a few verses that I found. Hosea 4:6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee. That thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget thy children. 2 Peter 2:20. For if after they have escaped the pollutions of the world, through the knowledge of the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, they are again entangled therein and overcome. The latter end is worse for them than the beginning. Guys, these are some pretty heavy verses. Isaiah 5:13. Therefore, my people go into exile for their lack of knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, and their multitude is parched with thirst. That's just a few. There's a lot in there about the Bible talking about knowledge. And you think that the Bible's only talking about just biblical knowledge. I don't think so. I think there's a lot of knowledge out there that we need to be concerned with. In 2012, I saw my very first video on spirit cooking. Anybody seen a spirit cooking video? Okay, well, just to give you a little bit, I mean, this is when WikiLeaks was coming out and stuff, and they realized that Hillary Clinton was being invited to spirit cooking parties, and they showed us what it was, and it was definitely evil and satanic. Before then, I skated through life, and I was pretty careless about what was going on in the world. Maybe it's because I felt powerless to do anything about it. I wasn't political. All I knew was that I needed to go and vote for my party, and that was about all I could do to do my part, you know. Basically, I was busy. I was too busy. Too busy. I was busy being a wife and a mother, a full-time business owner. I was busy working in the church, you know. Well, when somebody asked me if I recycled, my response was always no. I believe the rapture is going to come before God's going to let me live in a world I can't live in, you know. Basically, I was saying I trust God enough with my life that I'm not going to care too much about what else is going on. Well, what I didn't consider, you know, is whether I was really listening to God or not. I'm finding out that they, and I'm going to tell you who they are later, they want you busy.
Right.
That spirit cooking video, it woke me up to a world I didn't think existed in modern day society, guys. I thought witches were few and far between, most likely in backwoods tribes, which I'm sure you know about. But I began my research that day because I realized that the battle wasn't political, it was spiritual, because I wasn't political at all. I didn't watch any of the presidential speeches. I mean, I didn't do none of that. You know, I looked at the issues, went and voted my part, and that was it. Okay? But my Heavenly Father, basically, He placed in me a hunger that summer. And He jolted me awake because I wasn't seeing the signs that was all around me. Basically, I didn't know what to recognize either because I hadn't done any research. I lacked knowledge. So, pretty much I allowed the world to brainwash me. And I didn't know I was brainwashed. So, I'm going to tell you a grandfather story. My grandfather, he was a very big, muscular man. And he had these huge bicep muscles. And he'd always make that bicep muscle jump up and down. And he'd tell me he had his pet frog living in there. And I believed him. You know, as children, we believed those things. And then he told me a story about how you properly boil a frog. You see, you put him in a pot where he's nice and comfortable, and it's cool. And he'll float in that water nice and content. And you raise up that heat just a little bit, very, very slowly, until sooner or later that frog is boiling in the water. And he never jumped out, never tried, because he didn't know it was getting hot. You take that frog and you immediately put it into water that's hot. He's going to jump out like lightning. I mean, he's not going to like it at all. Well, I told that story one time on TikTok. And I related it to us and what we're going through here in America, in the United States, about, okay, our frog's been cooked, guys. And they took it down the exact same day. You see, they don't want you to wake up. They don't want you to have knowledge. They want you ignorant. Because when you're ignorant, they can do whatever they want to you. They can tell you whatever they want, and you're going to believe them. Okay? So, who are they? You're wondering who they are that I'm talking about? Well, even the Bible speaks about who they are. Okay? They are the ones who serve Baal and Moloch. The ones who pass their children through the fire to their Baal and Moloch gods. And time again, God rescued his people. He took them away from all of that. And they went back to them, back to God, back to the real God. But they always seem to inch back and go back to their gods, before. Do you ever wonder where in history those people went? Those people that the Bible talks about that served Baal, that served Moloch, that sacrificed those children, where did they go? They seemed to just drop off the face of the earth, didn't they? Well, I actually wondered, and I started doing some research. Deep research. The kings and the emperors and the czars of that day, they didn't like people who murdered their children, or worse, stole their children to murder them, So they would kick them out. They'd say, you don't do that here. You're going to either convert to our way of life, or you're leaving. So they were constantly, moved from one place to another, always leaving a few behind, wherever they went. Well, there's been some letters that's been found from one group of people that were doing this, and they were being so-called persecuted by the king of the area, and was told, hey, you have to leave or convert. So they wrote back. So when you talk about these Baal worshipers, these type of people, they have a head of their church too, okay? So they wrote back to their head of their church and said, hey, I want you guys to come and help us fight because they're trying to kick us out of their land. And that king wrote back, their head, said, no, we're not going to come help you. We're not going to come fight. You're going to stay right where you are. And you're going to feign conversion. And you're going to teach your children to be apothecaries and lawyers and judges. And you're going to infiltrate from the inside. And we will undo them from the inside out. We will be their destruction. You see, Satan plays the long game, guys. He's not worried about time. He knew he had several generations to work on this. Today, these people are called the secret societies and the Illuminati. And it really doesn't even matter if you believe in God, or if you believe in Satan, or hell, or heaven. The fact is that they do. They do. And they are the evil that we are up against. Okay? Now we're told in America that America's the land of laws. But that could really be nothing but, that's not true. We're not the land of laws, We're actually a nation of mandates, and it's meant for us, not them, America's run by people who are lawless, and the law is whatever the power in charge says it is. And unfortunately, we have allowed this to happen, guys. We have. We're the ones who stood back to keep the peace. After all, we were being Christ-like, We let them take 1 inch after another, after another, after another. We just kept stepping back, and they kept coming forward. They've kept us busy being entertained and fighting with each other. You know, they've made the economy to where we felt safe in it. You know, nothing was going to happen to us. Well, isn't that the way to trap an animal? You put out that bait and you disguise the trap, you know, and you make that animal that you want to trap feel safe until they're trapped. That's it. It's too late. So basically, we have been the frog that's been floating in that water, waiting for it to boil. You know, when the weight of this inaction fully came down on me, and I recognized my part of what I didn't do. I mean, honestly, I remember talking to a friend saying, okay, wait a minute, I never once went and stood in front of the abortion clinic and protested. I didn't like it. I didn't agree with abortion, but when did I go? You know, and that's just one little thing, you know, when they took prayer out of schools, when they did, you know, one thing after another. When did I do what I should have done and stand up? And so I had to realize I was part of the problem, and I grieved for a week. Because I raised my children like that too. Because, you know, by the time I'm waking up, my children are adults. I had to literally get on my knees and repent. And now I'm like a mama bear fighting for my children. So raise your hand if you've ever built anything. Okay, I've built something. So you know how important a foundation is for what you're building on, whether it's a cake or a building, you know. So if you want something to support something, you know, that's heavy, you're going to go under the foundation and make sure it can support that, aren't you? You're going to stand under that foundation. That's kind of what understanding is, because you are standing under the foundation that you're building on, okay? So you are basically understanding or submitting when you say, I understand. How many times does a lawyer tell you, do you understand? Or a police officer, do you understand me? You know? Basically, we must understand words, guys. Words. Humans are word-controlled creatures, and we have to establish what words mean. There's a Roman maxim in law that says, for he that would be deceived, let him. So meaning if you're so ignorant as to be deceived, that's your problem.
Yes.
It's your problem. There's a whole world in occultism that's operating today all throughout the world, guys, in which you use certain words in court, and they don't mean the same thing as what you use in daily language at all. All right? What is law? Anybody ever wondered what is law? You know, basically it stands for the 3 different jurisdictions, which are land, air, and water. Land is the law of the culture that live on that land. Air is trust law. And water is admiralty law, or basically the law of money. And anytime you're doing anything that you're using money or banking, you're using the law of water. This began way back in the land of Canaan. The Canaanites were a Phoenician bloodline, and Cana meant merchant or banker. Okay? Merchant comes from myrrh, from the sea, as in mermaid. So, you know, there you get merchant bankers. So, anybody think that the Statue of Liberty stands for freedom? Nobody's willing to raise their hand on this one, are you? Yeah, it's not, okay? Because liberty is what a sailor gets when he pulls up in the ship. You know, he pulls up on the ship, he gets liberty for a little bit of time off the ship, but he's not free. You know, he has to go back. So basically, it's not meaning that we're free. Here's an example of how the law of water works. Why do we go to court? We go to court so that we can play basketball or tennis on the court. Okay? And how do you play tennis? You play it with a racket. They don't pick these words by chance, guys. The whole idea of going to court is to put the ball in the other guy's court. So one team of lawyers throws the ball to the other team of lawyers. So back and forth it goes. And the judge wears black because he's a referee. He could care less who wins. He's paid regardless of who wins. So the judge rules from a bench, and in Latin, bench means bank. So he rules from a bank. That's right. So where do you find banks? On both sides of a river? Okay. So what does a riverbank do? It directs the flow of currency. Your money is the currency because it is the cash flow. Okay? So here's another example I can give you. Why are all ships considered female? Because maritime law says so. When a ship pulls into harbor, they're carrying items for money. All right? They usually travel along a canal until it sits in the berth when it's at the dock. When it's at the dock, the captain or purser has to provide for the port authorities a certificate of manifest. Okay? Because yesterday the ship was not here, but today it is. So it has now manifested. So all the products on the ship has also manifested, and they have to come off the water. All ships have a captain. Anybody knows what captain comes from? Capital. Money. Money is your capital. So when the captain represents money, you know, that's what he's representing on the ship, is the money of the ship. Okay, when it's a large ship, the captain has help and he hires a purser. The purser runs to the dock and presents a certificate of manifest for each item with information on it. It's got the weight, the length, the color of all these different items that he's got. And he's also responsible for the cost of things that's coming back on the ship. Isn't it something? Well, you know, it's a shame that the purser is responsible for the cost, because purser is also a word for person. You know, so I'm not a person because I don't want to be responsible for cost of anything around here. Okay? So now, when you're born, your mother's water broke and you came through the purse because we were feeling pretty safe floating in our cool water. You see, before 1968, all Americans were considered sovereign. And you hear me with this? Do I need to move this over? Okay. All Americans were considered sovereign before 1868. Okay? But they were out there planning and plotting to get us back under their control. Each time we fall for a slightly different scheme, but ultimately it's the same, guys. I've heard it said that the best slave is the one who doesn't know he's a slave. In 1868, there was a company that incorporated, and the founders of that company stipulated that they wanted all their members or employees to be called citizens. This corporation was called the United States Corporation. So today, if they ask you, are you a citizen, are you a United States citizen, you're thinking, are they asking if you were lawfully in this country to do business? Okay, but that's not what you were asked. Okay? They didn't ask you if you were in America lawfully. They asked you a specific question. They wanted to know if, out of your own mouth, are you testifying that you're a citizen of the United States? Because that means you're an employee of a foreign corporation operating under international maritime law and subject to the rules and mandates of that corporation. So today, the President of the United States is the president of a privately owned corporation. President is always a word used in corporate law. After all, that's why the president can give us executive orders, because he is head executive of the corporation. There's a whole lot more to words and terms. Guys, I've had to get myself a Black's Law dictionary because I have found out that I have incriminated myself over and over again, put myself under their jurisdiction. Okay? Words and terms have been used to trick us and enslave us since the serpent told Eve that she wasn't going to die. That old serpent, he never changes. He don't change his methods, and he takes advantage of our lack of knowledge. Guys, I want you to listen really close to all the guys that follow me, because we've all done an awful lot of research. Like I said, mine started in 2012. And there's no way we're going to get to be able to tell you everything that we've learned in these many years. But we're going to touch on the highlights. And I beg of you, if you want to save this nation, help us.
Think about it. Most people don't know that's the original flag. It's called the civil flag of peace in the United States. When Abraham Lincoln, which is a different story that was told in school, it's not the same as the truth. He put us in war mode so that he can pass laws. He started a lot of things. I'm just making time for him to get ready. We remove this flag and put the Old Glory, the one that she's got, the blue, and especially with the gold French all around, that means we're at war. Anytime you have that flag like that, you're saying, I can be commandeered, I'm in trouble, please help me. Put it outside your house, and the police or the government, at any time they decide they need your house, there's no question. You just told them it's fine. This flag tells you you're at peace. I have it in the back of my car. If I get stopped by any chance by a cop, he sees I'm at peace. The other day we went to the let me know when you're ready. Okay. And the other day we went to the court, and the reason they cannot come in and talk to us is because Roy had that little flag. Show it. Means we're at peace. Leave us alone. We're peaceful people. So we cannot be commandeered or be controlled or be told what to do because we don't fit under your jurisdiction. That's why I put a little commercial in between. This is Mr. Justin Rice. He's one of the court members. He's a council member of the assembly, and I'm going to let him do his presentation.
So, what I'm going to do is run through our daily lives and what we've been taught versus what's the actual truth. And the actual truth, I mean by the laws of this land, the laws of this country. The laws that we have not been told are there. We've been told something else, just like words. We've been taught that words mean one thing and they actually mean another in the law. So anyway, this is about the fraud in our daily lives, and I'm calling it the status quo. It's what society tells us we have to do. And it says this is an accounting of the fraud of our daily lives. It's not a complete accounting, guys, at all. But it's an accounting of what we face daily in our lives. And I'm going to put actual case law up here. And for anybody that knows what case law is, it's from the Supreme Court. It's what they have actually determined that the law says. They don't make law. They only determine what it says. So it says we wake up. If we have a spouse, we greet them good morning. We get ready for our work.
we go to our destination, we do our assigned jobs, we drive home. It says, and then we spend time doing our nightly routine. We go to bed, we start the whole thing over again the next day. And many of us do it 5, 6, even 7 days a week. So it's a humdrum existence sometimes. And it says this is a societal norm. Normally in the course of the day, we do things like pay bills, pay taxes, buy fuel or gasoline for our car, buy groceries. We work in some way to take care of things and hoping to make a little bit more than what we spend every month. This constitutes the way we've been programmed to function daily. Now the elite are quite a different story in the way they do things, the way they earn or work for their money. So let us look at the fraud that goes on daily in our lives, what we get to do. So we drive to our destinations using a vehicle. In order to do that, we need a driver's license, automobile insurance, registration of our automobiles, and gas or diesel. When we arrive at our jobs, we work for pay. We get taxed on what we earn. And these are all terms that are legal terms, so that's why I put them like that. It says we shop for groceries, either pay with credit cards, debit cards, cash, or check. We pay our bills using credit cards, debit cards, cash, or checks. We drive home. You spend time with family or friends, and then you go to sleep. A pretty typical day. So let's start with driving to work. The Supreme Court has made many rulings stating that we do not have to have a driver's license. The Supreme Court also says we do not have to register our private vehicle. And if any of you know or have worked for a commercial company, a private vehicle is completely different than a commercial vehicle. A commercial vehicle means that you are using that to either haul goods back and forth for pay or haul people back and forth for pay, like Uber or a bus driver or something of that nature. So, our transportation. Also, we don't need insurance on our private conveyance. Okay, and I'm sure everybody recognizes these people, the Supreme Court. This was an older picture when Antonin Scalia was still alive and Ruth Ginsburg was still awake.
That was good.
Yeah. So it says the Supreme, and these are going to be case laws where it tells you that you do not have to have that. The Supreme Court went through and they actually went over the law and they determined that this is what it says. So the Supreme Court and other high courts citations proving that no license is necessary for normal use of an automobile on common ways. It says the right of a citizen to travel upon the public highways and to transport his property thereon by horse-drawn carriage, wagon, or automobile is not a mere privilege which may be permitted or prohibited at will, but a common right which he has under his right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Come on.
Under this constitutional guarantee, one may therefore, under normal conditions, travel at his inclination along the public highways or in public places, and while conducting himself in an orderly and decent manner. That's the key, one of them anyway. Neither interfering with nor disturbing another's rights, he will be protected not only in his person, but in his safe conduct. And that's straight from the Supreme Court's website. Then down here is a case law. It's Thompson versus Smith. And it says, this is a constitutional law deal. It says the right of a citizen to travel upon the public highways and to transport his property thereon in the ordinary course of life and business is a common right, not a privilege, which he has under the right to enjoy life and liberty, to acquire and possess property, and to pursue happiness and safety. It includes the right in doing so to use the ordinary and usual conveyances of the day. And under the existing modes of travel includes the right to drive a horse-drawn carriage or wagon thereon, or to operate an automobile thereon, for the usual and ordinary purpose of life and business. Okay, and here's quite a few more of them. I have probably 30 of these on just a driver's license alone. So I don't know, do you guys want me to read them all? Does it matter?
Yes.
Or you want to hear them?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So I'll have to go back and forth because this will go through there. This is, actually, I'll just get my notes. Easy there.
Also, if you guys go to the website, you can get all of these. It's called Supreme Law and Court Case Law, and there's all the citations there. And we'll give you the website in a minute.
Yeah. So this is Barney versus Board of Railroad Commissioners. And it says the use of the highways for the purpose of travel and transportation is not a mere privilege, but a common and fundamental right of which the public and the individual cannot be rightfully deprived. The second one down is Thompson versus Smith. It says the right of the citizen to drive on a public street with freedom from police interference is a fundamental constitutional right. The second one of that is citizens have a right to drive upon the public streets of the District of Columbia or any other city absent a constitutionally sound reason for limiting their access. The third one down is Barbarian versus Lucere. Probably killed that one, but hey. The right to operate a motor vehicle and automobile upon the public streets and highways is not a mere privilege. It is a right of liberty, the enjoyment of which is protected by the guarantees of the federal and state constitutions. A citizen has the right to travel upon the public highways and to transport his property thereon. That's the State versus Johnson and Hillhouse versus United States. So then the last one down here is Kanisha Mills versus DC. And this is a recent one. This is 2009. So the use of the automobile as a necessary adjunct to the earning of a livelihood in modern life requires us, in the interest of realism, to conclude that the right to use an automobile on the public highways partakes of the nature of a liberty within the meaning of the constitutional guarantees. So over and over and over again has the Supreme Court said that we do not have to have a driver's license to drive on the road in the normal course of our daily actions. So another way that they are telling us we're slaves. If you have to have a privilege, then that means they've taken away your right. A right is given by God. A privilege is given by man. A privilege can be taken at will or given at will, whatever man decides they want. A right is something that God gave us, can never be taken away, no matter who says they can take it away. So, and there's lots more on that subject that's out there that I have. So let's see, let's go to the next one. Then it says that men are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And to secure, not grant or create these rights, governments are instituted. So the government is there to make sure that we retain our rights, not to take them away, which they have been doing. That property which a man has honestly acquired, he retains full control of, subject to the limitations, first, that he shall not use it to his neighbor's injury, and that does not mean that he must use it for his neighbor's benefit. Second, that if he devotes it to a public use, he gives to the public a right to control that use. And third, that whenever the public needs require, the public may take it upon payment of due compensation. That's Budd versus People of New York State. It says, but whenever the operation and effect of any general regulation is to extinguish or destroy that which by law of the land is the property of a person, so far as it has that effect, it is unconstitutional and void. Thus, a law is considered as being a deprivation of property within the meaning of this constitutional guarantee if it deprives an owner of one of its essential attributes, destroys its value, restricts or interprets its common, necessary, or profitable use. If it hampers the owner in the application of it to the purposes of trade, or imposes conditions up to the right to hold or use it, and thereby seriously impairs its value. And that's the constitutional law, that's a statute, 167 Amjur 2nd. So, okay, it says the duty of the licensor, the DMV commissioner, says the information created and surrounding the stricti juris doctrine regarding a particular license which may or may not be represented by and revealed within the contents and control of a license agreement, your driver's license, but must be revealed upon demand, and failure to do so is concealment, a withholding of material facts, the inducing contractual consideration known by those who have a duty and are bound to reveal. So basically you can go, what this says, you can go to the DMV and you can tell them that you want all the stuff that says that you do not have to have a license, and by law they are supposed to give it to you. So if they don't, they're in violation of the law. The term motor vehicle. So you hear driver's license, motor vehicle, car, whatever, automobile, means every description of carriage or other contrivance propelled or drawn by mechanical power and used for commercial purposes on the highways, in transportation of passengers and property, or property and cargo. Used for commercial purposes means the carriage of persons or property for any fare, fee, rate, charge, or other consideration, or directly or indirectly in connection with any business or other undertaking intended for profit. And that's in 18 U.S.C., which is United States Code 31. It says all household goods owned by the user thereof and used solely for non-commercial purposes shall be exempt from taxation. Driver's license is taxed, your car is taxed, your insurance is a tax, and such person entitled to such exemption shall not be required to take any affirmative action to receive the benefit of such exemption. And that's actually from the Arizona Constitution, Article 9, Section 2. So, okay. Now, the second part here says, what do we work for? This is coming on to the next section. Do we work for wages or income? The IRS says we do not have to pay income tax right in their manual. And so what I'm breaking down for you guys today is just to get your minds open on what the truth is. Some of you, it may take a long time to digest. Others, it may click right away. But this is all going to be shown that it actually is where it says it is. I'm not just up here saying this stuff. So I'm trying to show you all the case law and things like that, because it's actually for us to benefit from, even though we've been told that it's not for us. And I want truth in my life. I don't know about the rest of you. So it is a voluntary Class 5 gift tax. It says, do you know that every dollar that the IRS collects goes...
Backspace.
What's that?
Backspace.
Oh, I need backspace one? Okay. Yeah, some of these slides go faster. But every dollar that the IRS collects from us, income tax, all this kind of stuff, not one penny of it stays in this country. So I've heard people tell me that, oh, you know, it goes to pay for schools or roads or this or that. It doesn't. We have road tax on gasoline. We have school tax in our actual property taxes, and on and on and on. But the IRS, none of it. It goes to pay for the corporate taxes that the corporation has overseas. So not one penny stays here. It says a sole proprietor business does not have to pay taxes, as it is deemed a personal business. It says only incorporated companies have to pay a tax, which is why the powers that work want us to incorporate our businesses. They're always after us to incorporate. because they get the taxes. They get the taxes off it. But it says in there that, here we go to the next one here. Yeah, it's already up. But in the IRS manual, it's manual 6209, it actually states that W-2s, W-4s, and 1099s, they're considered as state taxes. And they're all voluntary. Under the different classes of a tax, they put down, I think it's 1 through 9. Class 5, which these are, is a gift tax. So every time you fill out a form and send the IRS your money, you're gifting it to them. That's all you have to do. You look in their manual, you say, why am I paying this? Well, the reason why is because they've got their businesses. Well, you have to fill a W-2 out. And so once you fill their form out, then you're liable for those taxes. But if you do not fill that form out, then you do not submit to them, you do not owe those taxes. Anyway, that's a whole other ballgame, and I know it's a pretty heated subject with a lot of people, but it's in the 6209 manual from the IRS.
It's gone twice.
So you can all look it up. It's available online. I think right now online the IRS has from 2014 all the way to 2021 available you can look at. So anyway, that's just a little precursor there. That's a long, drawn-out subject, just like a lot of these are, but I'll just touch on them a little bit. So, the third one is about how we pay for stuff every day. So we use credit cards, debit cards, cash, and checks to purchase things. It says, so in here I'll show you more case law that says that a bank is not allowed to loan its own credit. That's the Supreme Court decisions from, I think I've got them from 1900 something or other all the way up to 79. There's probably 100 of them I have that the Supreme Court has decided that they cannot loan their own credit. So what is a credit card, guys? What is a credit card? It's the bank's loaning its own credit, and you have to pay it back. But according to law, they're not allowed to do that, which is up there now. Okay. And the United States Code says the same thing. And they cannot loan out depositors' money according to the Federal Reserve Board. So a debit card is not considered to be actual money, and it's not even defined in law. So your debit card, the credit card is, debit card is not. Cash is just fiat currency and is not backed by anything at all but our energy. The energy we use and earn every day. We'll get into that a little bit later. And a check, according to the law, it's a negotiable instrument, which means it can be bought and sold. The checks you write out off your checkbook every day, they're considered, in UCC 3-104, C through F, it's considered a negotiable instrument. So why is it defined as a negotiable instrument and not just an order to pay from one bank to another? There's something to that. Okay. We'll go up right here. Yeah, it's up there now. So this is the first law up here. It's Bowen versus Needles National Bank. It says a national bank has no power to lend its credit to any person or corporation. And I went down and put the numbers down. These aren't every single one. I just went to the ones that I just thought were pretty cool. Number 4 on the list was a bank may not lend its credit to another, even though such a transaction turns out to have been of benefit to the bank. And in support of this, a list of cases might be cited, which would look like a catalog of ships. Wow. And that's Norton Grocery Company versus People's National Bank. It says in the federal courts, it is well established that a national bank has not power to lend its credit to another by becoming surety, endorser, or guarantor for him. That's Farmers and Miners Bank versus Bluefield National Bank. Those are two banks fighting each other. And number 9, it says the doctrine of ultra vires is a most powerful weapon to keep private corporations within their legitimate spheres and to punish them for violations of their corporate charters, and it probably is not invoked too often. So there's a remedy there that we can look into that isn't brought up very much. So it's been settled beyond controversy that a national bank under federal law, being limited in its powers and capacity, cannot lend its credit by guaranteeing the debts of another. All such contracts entered into by its officers are ultra vires. And that's Howard versus Foster Company versus Citizen National Bank. And it says, number 10 here, it says, checks, drafts, money orders, and banknotes are not lawful money of the United States. State versus Neelian. Okay. It says, neither as included in its powers, not incidental to them, is it a part of a bank's business to lend its credit. If a bank could lend its credit as well as its money, it might, if it received compensation and was careful to put its name only onto solid paper, make a great deal more than any lawful interest on its money would amount to. If not careful, the power would be the mother of panics. Indeed, lending credit is the exact opposite of lending money, which is the real business of a bank. For while the latter creates a liability in favor of the bank, the former gives rise to a liability of the bank to another. And that's I. Morse, American Express Company, and Citizen State Bank. You guys want me to read all the rest of these, or should we go on a little bit?
If not, I'd like a copy before I leave here.
What's that?
I'd like a copy before I leave here. I don't have anybody.
So move on a little bit.
Move on a little bit? Okay. So anyway, go to the next slide here.
We went two, I think.
Oh yeah, it did, didn't
Well, maybe it did, not
it? It did, yeah. So how bank deposits work? We'll just touch on this first. The bank itself is a liability owed by the bank to the depositor, which is you guys. Bank depositors refer to this liability rather than to actual funds that have been deposited. When someone opens a bank account and makes a cash deposit, he surrenders the legal title to the cash. It becomes property of the bank. That's why they could have a banking holiday like they did in 1933, and everybody's money would be tied up. Or like they just did, I think it was in China. I think I just heard on the news that it was crazy. They could just shut them down and nobody gets their money. And it becomes an asset of the bank. In turn, the account is a liability to the bank. So we'll just touch, and that actually is from Investopedia.com. I got the website up there for the deal. It's interesting that they say stuff like that. So it says a loan may be defined as a delivery by one party to, and the receipt by another party of, a sum of money upon an agreement, express or implied, to repay the sum or with or without interest. And that's a whole other case law. Okay, I'll go through that one. Oh, yeah, I know there's an important part in this one. So, just so you guys all know, banking fascinates me. I just love the way it works and love the way it doesn't work, and just always researching it and trying to find out what goes on. This is from Section 13 of the Federal Reserve website. And it says receipts of deposit and collection. It says every Federal Reserve Bank may receive from any of its member banks or other depository institutions and from the United States deposits of current funds in lawful money. That's a key term, lawful money. We do not use lawful money today. If you look at every bill we have in our wallets, it says Federal Reserve note. The term note in law means a promise to pay. So we're basically handing somebody a debt, handing another debt with it. You can't do it. It's not lawful. Even though we do it. It says funds in lawful money, national bank notes, Federal Reserve notes, or checks and drafts payable upon presentation or other items, and also for collection. Why do they put in their checks? Remember I said earlier about the checks, what a check is and what a check isn't. So anyway, I thought that was pretty fascinating. That's not the whole thing, but it's in there. Okay. I thought this was just a little bit fascinating here. So banks can be insurance agents or real estate loan brokers. They have that power. Blows me away what they can and can't do and get away with. We'll move along a little bit here. Okay, this is interesting here. This is from 12 United States Code 347C. And this was put in 1933 when the whole system just went to crap. It says, subject to such limitations, restrictions, and regulations as the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System may prescribe, any Federal Reserve Bank may make advances to any individual, any one of you, partnership, or corporation on the promissory notes of such individual, partnership, or corporation, secured by direct obligations of the United States or by any obligation which is a direct obligation of the United States. And I say that because in a bit we're going to get into what the obligations of the United States are. Okay, now bills. This is an interesting one too. When you get I know a lot of people get emails and stuff like that nowadays. There's not a lot of paper bills going on, but I still get paper bills. And the paper bills we get, if you ever read them, they say statement of account. It doesn't say an actual bill. There's a difference between a bill and a statement of account. It says bills. We pay them because we were trained to do so. But we are not supposed to be paid by us. What we get in the mail every month is a statement of account, is not a bill. Order. Order.
They're coupons.
Yep.
I want to send one back.
And the actual legal term of it is called a coupon.
Endorse it.
Now this is interesting. So this is from 1993. This was a guy named James Traficant, and he was a congressman. And I'll just read you a small excerpt out of there. But the thing's probably 3 pages long, but he goes in and he prescribes everything to do with what this country is, how it is, and he's in the congressional hearing right there. He's talking to all his other buddies there, and they're having a hearing on this. It says, Mr. Speaker, we are here now in Chapter 11, the bankruptcy. So the United States is in bankruptcy. How can a government be in bankruptcy unless it's a corporation? Corporations can go bankrupt. It says, members of Congress and official trustees presiding over the greatest reorganization of any bankrupt entity in world history. I'm talking about the U.S. The U.S. government. We are setting forth here, hopefully, a blueprint of our future. There are some who say it is a coroner's report that will lead to our demise. Talking about the whole country. It is an established fact that the United States federal government has been dissolved by the Emergency Banking Act, March 9, 1933. He is saying right here in Congress that the government was dissolved in 1933. So what else is going to tell you that we are running in a corporation, like Tammy talked about earlier? It says, March 1933, 48 Statute 1, Public Law 89-719, declared by President Roosevelt. Yep. So, and then on the mortgages. So it says our mortgages. But if anybody wants to get with us, the mortgage, which we pay monthly, you know, if we have a house payment or whatever, it's covered under UCC 9 and the International Revenue Code 1031. The remedy to getting out of the mortgage, which you're not supposed to be paying for anyway. So, I think that's about it. There's a little bit more, but I'm not going to bore you with it. I love this stuff, so it's not boring to me. But anyway, just keep in mind that God said we're free. And Jesus says he came down to set the captives free. And I do believe that that's what a lot of this is about, is being able to be actually free. Because we weren't made to work, retire a little bit, and then die. That's not how God created us in this world to be. That's how the world and the enemy has created it for us to be. Because then we get stress, we get anxiety, we get all these other things that come from it. But just know that there's a remedy to everything that we're being told is a lie right now. There's a remedy out there. And I don't know if anybody touched on it, but in the research I've been doing through this whole thing, every single law, every single thing that I've touched upon is in the Bible. Because remember, guys, the enemy can't create, he can only mimic. And God made a perfect system. but the enemy has twisted it and perverted it. But I've still found every single thing in here in one part of the Bible or not. So if you're looking for remedies, you're looking for hope, you don't find any hope. It's in the Bible. You just have to look at it. You just have to try to find it. So anyway, thank you all. I hope I didn't bore you too much. Have a great day.
So, can you guys hear me back there?
Yep.
So, let me tell you something real quick. We're not telling you not to pay taxes. We can show you how you're not supposed to. We're not telling you not to get a driver's license. You don't need it. You can do it if you want to. But we can show you how lawfully, not legally, lawfully, with all the cases in there, we can show you how if you are not a citizen of the United States, a person is a quarter person. Like back in the times of the Muslims, a woman is it only has a fourth of a man. And before Abraham Lincoln, black people only had 1/4 vote. You were not complete. If you're, I have some paperwork I can give you at the end. I can show you and prove to you with case law that every time that you say you're a citizen, or you agree to be a resident, or you say I understand, you just lost everything. We can show you via the standing of a state national how you can regain those things back. We're not against government. We hold government responsible. We're not against government. We just want them to be not corrupt. So what he's giving you right now is we have tons of that. And it might be shooting over some of you because I saw you talking and all that. I'm telling you, if you make $300, you gotta take $200 home. I can show you how you take the $300 home. Lawfully, they want to give you money if you're standing right. If you're standing right. It's kind of like this. You're trying to go to heaven, but you don't know Jesus. You're not going to make it. I don't care how holy you live. If your name is not written in the book, who knows what I'm talking about? If your name is not written in the book of life, you ain't going there. I don't care if you're floating in the spirit. Your name has to be written. You have to be a citizen of heaven. Or you have to be, in order to receive these benefits, you have to be a state national. I'm going to talk about it a little bit, and I'm going to give you a little paper you can learn. Now we're going to go into what's the strategy or the remedy. Every time you hear remedy, is a solution. That's what you're going to do. When you hear certain words, what you're hearing is the lawful word. We don't use the word legal. We use the word lawful. So she's going to tell you the other part, and after her, if there's time, I'm going to give you the other part, and I'll give you some paperwork to do. And everybody signed up. Everybody signed up on the paper when they came in. Did anybody didn't sign up? Please sign up. Let me tell you why. We're going to give you free stuff, $1 million. No.
I wish I were sure. Hi, my name is Nyla Robinson, and I'm here to help you discover how the pieces will fall into place, and all who have come forward to help everyday people see the truth behind this truth that is in plain sight. And what he touched on a little bit is how paying the income tax isn't necessary. But where I'm going to come in, I'm going to tell you.
Just
Noises.
What is that?
That's your heartbeat.
You're electric, girl.
Apparently. My magnetic too. Okay. So I'm going to tell you guys how they've managed to trap you into being a federal employee. And then I'm going to give you the remedies of the language that we have to use in order to extract yourself from being a part of the federal scheme that they have going on, for lack of a better term. All right, so first I'm going to start with a quote from Thomas Jefferson. If a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a nation of civilization, it expects what has never was and what will never be. I would like to also extend to any and all of you who would like to help us abolish the specter of modern slavery, which now threatens to destroy the essential rights and freedoms which made this a great nation and the envy of all others around the world. Help us to restore a government which has drifted so far off course that it hardly resembles the constitutional republic it was designed to be. And I'd like to introduce you to a little thing called the Buck Act. This act authorized the Department of the Federal Government to create federal area for imposing of the federal state tax of the 1939. This tax was imposed as for USSCS Section 111. The Social Security Board has already created the federal area overlay. This term, states, includes the territory possession of the United States. And note that the capital S in states is referring to designated territories of states as possessions held by the corporate United States. I like to use the corporate term versus the actual term because you'll note that the Kansas state should not be in all caps. If it's in all caps, then it's a federal term. The term federal area means lands or premises held or acquired by for the use of the United States or any department, establishment, or agency of the United States. Any federal area or any part thereof which is located within the exterior boundaries of a state shall be deemed to be a federal area located within such state. And so forth, taxation affects federal areas, sales, and use of taxes, not per person. Note, the term person refers to a fictional entity. Thus, the obvious question arises, what is a federal area? So a federal area is any area designated by an agency, department, or establishment of the federal government. This includes a Social Security area designed by the Social Security Administration, any public housing area that has funding, federal funding, a home that has a federal banking loan, a road that has federal funding, and almost everything that the federal government touches through any type of aid. In Springfield versus Kennedy, the federal area attaches anyone who has a Social Security number or any person contacted with the federal or the state governments through merchants, and the federal government usurps of sovereignty of its people, as well as the sovereignty of several states by creating federal areas within the boundary of a state under the authority of Article 4, Section 3, Clause 2 in the federal Constitution, which states the Congress shall have power to dispose of or make all helpful rules and regulations respecting of their territory or property belonging to the United States. And nothing in the Constitution shall be construed as prejudice of any claim of the United States for any particular state. Therefore, all U.S. citizens, i.e. franchise citizens of the District of Columbia, reside in one of the states of the Union as classified as property, as franchisees, or as federal government of the individual entity. So as them having us get a Social Security number, they then put us into their jurisdiction for their taxation methods. This area is similar to a territory that a federal government acquires through purchasing, conquest, or treaty, thereby imposing federal territory law upon the people of the federal area. The federal territory's law is evidenced by the executive branch of the yellow fringe around the U.S. flag of the schools, offices, and courtrooms designated by mercantile jurisdiction. So whenever you see the schools with the yellow fringe or a courthouse with a yellow fringe, know that you are going to be stepping on federal grounds because they designate those as federal property. You must live on the land in one of the states in the Union of several states, not in any federal state or federal area, nor can you be involved in any activity that would make you subject to federal laws in order to remove yourself from those federal taxes. You cannot have a valid social security number, a resident driver's license, motor vehicle registration in your name, a federal bank account, a federal register account related to an individual person. And I have all of these ordinance numbers in case anybody wants copies after this. Any or other known contract applies in the fact that would place you within any federal area and thus within the territorial jurisdiction of multiple laws of Congress. Remember that all Congress are territorial in nature and only apply within the territories, jurisdictions of the Congress. This has been created a fictional and federal state within a state. The fictional state is identified by the use of the two-letter abbreviations. I feel like I'm talking too loud into this thing.
No, you're doing
Are
fine.
you doing fine? Okay, because I hear an echo like crazy.
Yeah, it's moaning at me, but I can hear you.
All right, so Arizona, AZ, Texas, TX, in caps, are all distinguished authorities by abbreviation. California used to be abbreviated CALIF, and only the first letter is capitalized. Arizona used to be ARIZ, and Texas was TEX, and etc., etc. They use a fictional zip code as well within the municipal executive, legislative jurisdiction of Congress. So the zip codes were also created by Congress to designate federal area. So a lot of people have gone to putting their zip codes into parentheses to take it out of your address, so that it does not put you into federal jurisdiction. The entire scheme was accomplished by passing this Buck Act. It's a Policy Salary Act of 1939 that works with the private sector as the subjects of all private sector workers who have social security numbers in all state and federal laws within a state. A fictional federal area overlays the land of Kansas, California, and all other states in the Union. The term "a person" shall have the meaning assigned to it in this section 3797 of Title 26. So they have all of their terms for what their words mean in their dictionary. It is not the same thing as the terms would mean to us and what we use on the daily, like what they have said before. The term income tax means a tax levied on, with respect to, or measured by net income, gross income, or gross receipts. The term state includes a territory or possession of the United States. So any territory or their possessions. And the term federal area means any land or premises held by or acquired by or for use of the United States or any department or establishment or agency of the United States. Any federal area or any part thereof which is located within an exterior boundaries of the state shall deem to be federal areas located within such state. All right, we've got on to the remedy. Any questions? We'll all be afterwards. All right, Dale? All right, in order to know how to handle the labyrinth they have before you, you got to know what is going on and what you're talking about. Knowing that most of them will know what you're saying if you use the right way and the right words, even though they try and claim ignorance. The writ of habeas corpus in November 17th of 2017 is how to force the courts to deal with you as a private person and not their corporate entity they try and make you out to be. Building a claim in court is like building a house. If you have to start out by building a firm foundation. You do this by getting your documents and recordings in place, by presenting the evidence in a logical, competent fashion. Claiming the writ of habeas corpus, a properly identifying yourself or your capacity to the courts, is key to claiming your indemnity or exceptions. So what we want is to be exempt from the rules that they have tried to force upon us that we didn't choose. We didn't choose to be federal employees. We didn't choose to be any of that. We want to be naturalized human beings and treated like dignified individuals that we are. And the value of the bonds that were established in your name without your knowledge and consent. The first thing you need to realize is that the United States District Court and all of the federal states and the county courts have no jurisdiction related to a living man known as the living soul. Because the legality of it is a corporation can only deal with a corporation. That's why they had to make you a corporation, to be able to affect you, to be able to use you, to be able to hold authority over you. You take yourself out of the corporation and into a living person, state national, and only a state national or living person can go after another living person. Any courts dealing in stationary law has jurisdiction over corporations that are created by statute and nothing else. They have asserted jurisdiction over you and your assets by falsely claiming that you are missing and presumed dead. They do that by filing your birth certificate. As soon as you got your birth certificate filed, they consider you to be lost to sea. And they create this entity for you as you are lost to sea. And then establishing a public trust and a public transmitted utility named after you. Corporations that they can sue and charge and otherwise manipulate under the statutory law. They also falsify a public record concerning you, which you need to correct either directly in court or by establishing a new record. For those who follow the suggestions and that you record your common law copyright claim with the nearest land recording office, already have claim to the writ of habeas corpus in place. Subjects to all of this state is the territory of municipal states or states, capitalized states or lowercase state. Where do you want to fit?
Right.
While retaining your own standing in domicile on the land jurisdictional state. The simplest approach is always the best. For all civil cases and criminal cases not involving direct physical arrest, I recommend not even going to court, as you invoke special and restrictive appearance under Rule E of Supplement Rule and appear via registered letter instead. So you're going to give your response to their summons in a written letter and not in a physical summons to the court. So when they put out a summons, they're trying to summons a dead body basically into court. And we'd rather write them a letter saying that, yeah, we're not coming into court. We're going to go ahead and tell you to shove it from here. If this prosecutor brings a charge against any federal person named after you, you send a letter marked private and confidential back to the senior judge of the court. You will want to use your Christian name, aka trade name first, middle, last, written in upper and lower case, placed in the center of the page with the mailing address set up as in care of. Because you don't want to admit that you are in the federal jurisdiction by putting your address on there, because your address is designed for a federal area. So you put in care of this address so that it goes to an address still, the mail still knows where to deliver it, but they know it's in care of. Whatever post office or street address you care to use right beneath it, and under that registered mail number you are using to deliver your special restricted appearance. Because note, if you don't use registered mail, then you don't have a receipt that you ever send it, and they can deny that you sent it. Send a black and white photocopy of your authentic birth certificate, stamped private and confidential, and write for administrative use only on it, and sign your own upper and lower case, middle name and last name across all of the seals that appear on the black and white copy of the birth certificate. This is notice that you have taken control of that vessel. If you establish your common law, land jurisdiction, copy of your trade name by any of the processes that have been described, formal correction and a deed of reconveyance, or simply recording your ownership of a said name with the county land recording office or both, include certified copies of these record documents as further evidence that you have taken control as the holder in due course. In your letter to the senior judge, you will want to inform him that charges have been brought against a defendant corporation that was created and a name after your trademark name without your knowing consent via unconscionable contract. If you are the party of interest, in fact, the suboree, and those who don't speak legalese, a suboree is the assumption by a third party, such as a second creditor or an insurance company, of another party's legal right to collect a debt or damages. This is a legal doctrine where one person be entitled to the enforcement, the substance or review right of another one owns benefit. Right of subrogation typically arises by operation of law, but can also arise by statute or agreement. The subterranean is a equitable remedy having first developed in the English courts of clemency as a familiar feature of common law systems. Algorithms, doctrines exist in civil law jurisdictions. So we kind of have to learn a lot to be able to speak their language, because they are way up here and we are just like looking up at them like, what did you just say? So we own all priority claim and interest against the bonds brought forward by the prosecutor. If you in fact attempt and knowing to be an internationally protected person, a clerk does not have your delegated authority to act as your court authority with the reference of this venue. Please send the check for the bond recuperation to your address shown above. You guys know that you can just pay a bond or any warrant that is out for you. You can just pay it off instead of actually having to go in and serve any time at all. You just go and ask how much the bill is. Write a check, pay it off. Please investigate and find the prosecuting attorney should it be found that he or she failed to post bid bond or failed to fully and truthfully inform the court that the actual facts. Now this all will be on something you would have to return to a court if they summons you in. And if you guys have any questions about how to respond to that, I can also help with that. Thank you very much. Accordingly, etc., etc., your first, middle, and last name, a peaceful American national. This is the first thing you do when you are accosted by these rats in any civil case, including mortgage cases. Fully informed the senior judge so that this Code Jones, or that the line of the court has no plausible deniability if it takes any action resulting in harm to you or your estate. And since you have standing claim of writ habeas corpus in the public record, you can even use this in case of physical arrest. Just memorize the document number and the recording district where you